All right, guys, welcome to Submission Radio Live. We are back with a massive episode. I'm about to introduce the guests, but just quickly, if you guys do want to support the show, you guys can become a Submission Radio member. We just had our friend Lazy Bed re-up his membership just before this live stream started. If you want to support the show, you can do so by becoming a Submission Radio member. Also, I just want to shout out my friends at IP Vanish, who have sponsored this program. You guys can get 83% off by signing up to the best VPN in the game right now. It also comes with a free 3 gigabyte eSIM data gift. Make sure to check it out. There's some other great options. I have the link in the description below for that 83% off. Now, guys, I have to be honest. I haven't been this excited for a main event. I can't really remember when. Like, we had some massive fights. Ilia Topuria took on Charles Oliveira, but this is the fight that I've always wondered in my head, especially after Khamzat beat Robert Whittaker. What the hell is it going to look like? I can't believe it's actually going to happen. So for this special occasion, I have two very, very special guests making their big return together. The big duo that we've all been waiting for is back here on Submission Radio. First up, with a massive new deal kicking off in 2026 with CBS, this next man may be front and center in the front lines of the juicy MMA action. It's time to bring the BBC to the UFC. BC will be making primetime pay-per-view action look easy. Of course, he's repping MK all day. Big Brian Campbell, how are you going to remember us still when you become a mega millionaire star? Well, you still got to speak to us little people.
I mean, I hope I get a piece of that 7.7 billion, but happy to be here. I love Ukraine. I love Australia. I love me some Dennis. All right. That's what I'm talking about.
That's it, baby. And what about this? The other side of this dude just launched a new website and he's loving it. He stays in the pocket, hard body karate. When he's not boat tripping with the boys by day, he comes in with hot takes by night. New, shiny, updated website. Jed Meshew, how's that new car smell going, my friend?
Oh, I mean, it's so good. Because we had a new website happen, and then immediately Dana was like, here's our TV deal. We're going to CBS. And that's just it's been quite a week, and it's freaking Wednesday, boys. Dana Contender Series kicked off last night. Dana's tripling down on the White House card. BC, now that you're, the UFC's on CBS, your stomping grounds. Are you going to be caged? You be calling the fights for UFC White House?
No, I don't think they'll let me that close, but I picked a good week to color my hair again. And will I be on the South Lawn? I think so. I think I might be at everyone moving forward. My life just changed. This is wild. All right, great. Yeah.
Don't act like Secret Service is going to clear your ass to make it to UFC White House.
BCEO, that's the new gimmick right there. Just comes out to the Vince McMahon as the UFC starts playing. Dude, this is incredible news, BC. We're going to touch on this new deal first. And by the way, we're going to talk about UFC 319. So much to talk about. But before we do that, fellas, Dan Hooker dropped an absolute gem on New Zealand TV just yesterday. The Mac Life, of course, shared it. This is a great graphic. We all know the Charles Oliveira fight was confirmed with Fiziev. Super weird fight. But this is what Dan had to say to people that said that apparently
semi-conscious Charles Oliveira. And I said, oh no, I'm scared of Charlie Olive's lifeless body floating around the cage. No, that's not how that went down, my friend. I was never offered that fight. I require medical clearance. He did not medically clear me for October. He cleared me for November. Now, I don't know if he could give me Dr. Doolittle's number or whatever veterinary clinic that he went to sign off his brain, because if he put his brain, it would still be mashed potatoes in an MRI machine. But I don't know who watched his last fight against Ilia Topuria and see the back of his head bounce off the mat like a basketball. And they said, you know what? I would like to see him match for a fight in 6 weeks.
I mean, all fairness to Dan here. What the hell? Who the hell? Why the hell? What the hell happened with Charles Oliveira's team where somebody said, you know what? This guy's guaranteed probably a BMF fight with Max Holloway next year. But you know what would be better? Let's throw him in there with Fiziev in Brazil just weeks after he got his brain scrambled. BC, I mean, is Dan Hooker, he's making some serious sense here, right? Like, what the hell is going on? Who made this dumb decision for Charles Oliveira?
Yeah, I mean, when this fight was announced, I had about 6 to 10 seconds of, oh shit, banger alert. And then I did the same thing you did. Wait, this smells way too much like Michael Bisping losing the middleweight title to GSP and then selling his soul to Kelvin Gastelum in Asia about 2 weeks later, despite lacking medical clearance. Yeah, I mean, this is aggressive here. I know it's being filed by the Oliveira camp under, well, look, Charles just wanted to main event in Hio one more time, but it feels like a little bit too much too soon. You made a great point that it could jeopardize a future big fight. But look, these guys, they are warriors. And sometimes when you get a bad L like he just took, you want to get in there right away and erase it. It's a lot like playing video games. I mean, you beat me at Madden, dude. A, I'm going to throw the controller, but B, I'm not going to let you leave my house until I get you back. The only difference is you don't really take shots to the head in Madden. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude, it's crazy. Like, Jed, this guy, like, let's say he even goes out there and beats Fizzy. What's on the line for him anyway? Same fight with Max Holloway probably next year.
Nothing's on the line ever for Charles Oliveira anymore. Like, that's just where he's at in his career. Like, what can he challenge for? He's never fighting for the lightweight belt again. Like, as long as Topuria holds it. And if Topuria is not the guy holding it, it's probably like Islam has come back. And so like, he's just not doing that. So like, that's not really relevant. He's coming back way too soon. And it's a terrible idea. And now it's like an even doubly terrible idea, right? Because the new TV deal's been announced and there is likely, I mean, the UFC is saying this could be great for fighters. We shouldn't take them at their word, but like, it is likely that there will be a pay increase sort of across the board for fighters. And, you know, Dana announced yesterday at Contender Series that the bonuses are going up in 2026. Charles Oliveira is the guy with the most bonuses in UFC history. Like, he's just shortened himself whatever the difference is now by fighting in October, as opposed to actually letting his brain recover and fighting next year. He wants to fight in Rio. I guess I sort of get it. This is where, you know, you would hope that his team and his coaches would have his best interests at heart and not allow him to do this, but that's not the world we live in. So yeah, Rafael Fiziev is probably going to kill him. That's going to suck.
Wow. I mean, he's got the most finishes in UFC history, but I don't think he knows it doesn't count if you finish yourself. You know what I mean?
This might be one of the worst uses of a legend in the UFC that we've seen in quite some time. And I mean, like, dude, you want to get back into it, just wait to fight like Dan Hooker in November at least, or something like that, which, by the way, is maybe a funner and better fight like for you yourself, or just wait for the Max Holloway fight that everybody wants to see. But Jed, you mentioned the bonuses from Dana White. I got some footage here from the Mac Live about Dana White talking about these bonuses. Let's have a look about what the Bosco had to say about these increases.
Yeah. So do you look at it as like case by case on each fighter, or do you go, right, we're just going to up the base pay and maybe up the bonuses? How do you sort of figure out the fighter pay rising?
Yeah. These are, listen, I'm not going to have any comments on that yet, because we still got to get together and figure this stuff out. It's August. We have till January to figure all that stuff. But, you know, the low hanging fruit that's easy to answer, bonuses are obviously going up. So, you know, that'll be big. And just forget about the tide rising with all the other fighters. I mean, just the number that the bonuses bring to a fighter is, you know, that's what.
He went on to say millions there, BC, millions. Not, of course, to one fighter, but millions to potentially some. Let's say we are in the UFC control room here, BC, and we were able to increase these bonuses. Everyone knows the figure of this deal. I feel like the figure of this deal is on every single website around the world. Now the pressure is kind of back on the UFC to increase these bonuses. What do you think is an acceptable number for the UFC to jump up from? I think it's like 50 grand now, right?
Yeah, don't go to 75. Here's the deal. Like, it had been obviously a recurring headline, a recurring podcast narrative that the fighters are underpaid. They're not handled well. I think a lot of us in the media followed Luke Thomas's lead, though, and go, if they don't care and they're not going to fight for it, why are we going to waste our time doing that? But Jed's right. Obviously, just by raising this much cash coming in, it's going to raise that, not going to raise the percentage, but raise the amount they get for the percentage. But if they're not getting 100,000 per bonus here, what are we doing here? It was 5 years, 1.5 billion last deal with the ESPN. This is 7 years, 7.7 billion. So if I'm the USC, look, you got to start at 100K as your basement, maybe even go higher. Why? Because you could really put out the fire of talking about that lack of fighter pay by doing stuff like this that I don't really think would change the bottom line that much. Let's go 100 though. Let's put a hundo on it. Let's keep it 100, if you will, and let's give the fighters what they deserve.
100 sound good to you, Jed?
No, because I think bonuses are stupid. Like if they're gonna do it, I guess sure, but like just stop doing performance bonuses, which are arbitrary, and they've also been like really wrong this year. Like they've consistently picked like fight of the night that's just like maybe the 4th or 5th best fight on the card.
Yeah.
So just
what happened a couple of weeks ago where they did that? There was like
they do it all the time.
Crazy one, yeah.
They've done it like a lot this year, which is wild. It's just like, and instead of having an arbitrary, we deem these to be the best bonuses, and then fighters will like bet, like that's the other part of this too. Like you up the bonus money, they're begging for 50K. If you make it 100, god damn, they're never going to shut up begging. And like I get it that, you know, I feel bad for them, but like it is the worst part of my fan experience to just watch them like literally beg for money. And so like I just want them to be done with bonuses and just do finish bonuses. If you get a finish, here's a 50K bonus. So everyone tries to finish their opponents. That would do way better to incentivize the things they want anyway. But if you're going to do it, okay. I do want to shout out John Nash. He had a tweet. John Nash, obviously like the man as far as financial stuff in this industry
Here
goes.
a couple of days ago breaking down the deal. What a smart guy.
Very smart guy. And he had a tweet last night sort of in response to Dana kind of talking about this subject. It's like the new deal adds on average $600 million a year. If you raise bonuses to 75K, that adds 4.3 million to total fighter pay. So it's basically nothing. If you make minimums 14 and 14 instead of, I believe, the 10 and 10 they're currently at, it adds another 10 million. And if you redo pay-per-view contracts to replace pay-per-view and increase guarantees for top 20, that's sort of just an estimation on sort of how to, you know, course correct for that. It's an additional 60 million. So that will raise total fighter pay by 33%. Revenue share will fall from the 16% that it's, you know, currently at year over year to 15%. So like, again, fighters are going to net more money after this. The UFC is going to net a bigger percentage of more money after this. And I just want to keep that in mind.
Well, that's a great tweet right there. And let's not forget the UFC still makes money from the tourism boards every time they come to the towns. That's not factored in there. The merchandise isn't factored in there, all sorts of branding stuff. BC, is it time for us to move away from the kind of stupid show and win structure that they have in MMA and move over to this at least more guaranteed structure that we see in boxing, where it's like, at least as a fighter, you know, if I go in here, this is the amount of money I'm going to make. If I lose, like a lot of these fighters are like, I lost today, so I made no money and I have to pay my camp man. Like, is it time to move away at least from that kind of barbaric system that we have?
Yeah, the most unfair element of that is what you just said right there. If I lose, even if I get screwed by the judges, I'm missing half the purse. That does have to go away. I'm not against keeping, even though we can argue that the bonus system sucks and it shouldn't be there. Let's not forget in boxing, which doesn't have that, we had boxing writers arguing for that after that May 2nd Times Square turkey card where guys were circling around each other and not throwing punches. And then Canelo the next night in Saudi Arabia did the same thing. And everybody's like, well, maybe we need to put a bonus on there for the winner. I just think, look, you raise the bonuses aggressively. You're still putting in that mindset that we're prioritizing finishes. We're prioritizing action fighters to go out there and do action stuff. Heck, throw in a Paramount Plus subscription for each fighter too. But in all seriousness, raise that minimum. No more 12 and 12 or 14 and 14. How about 25K as the minimum? I mean, like they're going up to 1.1 billion per year. And I understand that there's a lot of people that need to get a chunk of that for the investment they put in, the stockholders and all that stuff. It's probably never going to be a truly fair system unless the fighters organize, but they don't want to do it. They don't seem to have the means, the understanding, or the guts to do it. This does seem like a good time for them to at least let their voice be heard. Start a hashtag on Twitter for, 100K bonuses or 25K minimum pay or whatever. I really think the UFC doesn't have to actually reach that far to get a lot of positive PR in their favor just because it's an improvement on where they've been. And if you're Moicano, don't hand the money back. Just hang on to it for a minute.
And if you're Moicano, don't hand the money back. Just hang on to it for a minute. Maybe
Yeah.
invest it somewhere.
Shout out to Makano, as Shop calls him. Yeah, wow. Yeah, wow.
All right, well, let's talk about UFC 319 because this is a positive right here. And by the way, the Paramount deal, I don't want to be so negative about it. It's a win for the fans. I'm happy for the fans that get to watch MMA who are struggling to pay their electricity bills, at least can now watch MMA.
We think. I think it's going to be, but like, I don't know. I was told that streaming was better than cable, and I would 1,000,000,000% take like traditional cable over the current streaming structure, which is just worse cable. So we don't know, but we think.
Dude, you have a good point there, Jed, because with the WWE fans, it's like, hey guys, blah, 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 blah. Like, everything's great. And then it's like, hey, $29 a month for ESPN, motherfucker. Now it's like, we're going to Paramount. Everything's fun. And I'm already seeing Dana White say pay-per-view's not dead, right? There could still be fights out there big enough to warrant pay-per-view. Like, Jed, do you believe we've oh, sorry, go on, DC.
Didn't it feel like he was probably talking about the White House experience, but then he kind of turned back on that in subsequent interviews today and said, oh yeah, I guarantee that White House card will be live on CBS. I just feel like Dana didn't get all the talking points because that news hit everything so quickly, and Dana was in Florida moving his daughter into college. Then he went to the Contender Series. So I don't think that, I think what we've actually heard from Shapiro and Ari is probably what it's going to be, at least for year one, right?
I don't think there's going to be pay-per-view. I think Dana, I'm actually sort of online with BC here. I mostly think Dana just heard people like shitting on pay-per-view and then remembered that they still have 4 or 5 of them left this year. And so he can't be like, actually, pay-per-view is a dead business, but buy 319 this Saturday. Those two things don't work. So he had to just kind of walk that back. But I will doubt that anything next year will start getting charged for. But this is a 7-year deal. Wouldn't shock me at all if by year 2 or 3, you know, you're paying for the streaming service that will still give you commercials because they all do that, which is total bullshit. Yeah. And then, you know, actually, if you want the full UFC package, you're going to need to pay this extra thing, just like ESPN is doing, you know, with their ESPN Super Plus or whatever the shit that is. So, you know, it'll probably still net out cheaper because being a UFC fan like this year is wildly expensive, but we shouldn't like credit it before we actually know that that's true.
I'm actually excited about this deal though. And by the way, we're here in Australia. I am here in Australia. I have had so many people write to me basically on the verge of tears being like, so you're telling me we're still paying for pay-per-view for the foreseeable future? And me having to be like, sorry, dudes. One day Paramount will have a 30-day negotiation window. Until then, it will still be $60 a pay-per-view here and in New Zealand as well. I wish I could change.
That's why you get that VPN. Get that VPN and get a Paramount sub, you know?
I'll become friends with BC. He might be able to send you a link. Now, just quickly, let's give a rating to this card, fellas. BC, look at this. Jed, look at this. I spoke to our good friend LT. He gave it, I think, like a B+. I'm like, B+, man? I don't know. Like, we got DDP Khamzat in the main event. Lorne Murphy, Aaron Pick. That's an interesting fight. Jeff Neal, Carlos Pradas, Jared Kenya, MVP. I have no idea why that fight's even made. But then Tim Elliott was Kai Sakura. That's fun. King Green's on there. We got Chase Hooper on there. Even on the early prelims, Edson Barbosa, Brian Battle. BC, give me your take on this one. What is your rating?
I really think because the main event is an A++, you know, a 15 out of 10 in the ratings, and the main card is pretty strong. Look, you're not having a title fight in the co-main, but Aaron Pico's going to fight for a title if he wins, and he's been trash talking Volk, so this is a big deal. When you just look at the names, though, I mean, like you said, you're getting Edson Barbosa and a borderline curtain jerker. I got to go A-. I really do. I mean, I think the main event is the biggest part of what goes into a grade. This is perfect. I've been saying that I have not been this fired up since Max Elia last year and Volk Islam 1 the year before. And just like, I think it equally appeals to casuals and hardcores. You just want to see what it looks like. Let's freaking go. I kick the UFC in the butt when they deserve it. I praise them when they get it right. Chicago's a great fight city. They're finally back there. They got this one right in my eyes. Yeah, even though, like you said, MVP Jared Cannonier, weird fight. I also kind of really want to see that fight, though, just for the style contrast. So I can't complain in this. I complain enough about the fight nights. I like this.
By the way, Telvin 808 predicted the A- scorecard that you just gave BC. I wonder, Jed, do you have a similar view on this one?
Yeah, it's an A-. It's not like the card is weak if the main event falls off. And
Yeah.
knock on wood, nobody wants that to happen, but it is Khamzat Chimaev. You can never like bank on him showing up. And they kind of are. And so if something happens to Khamzat and Kyle Bahalio steps in, it's still like a good fight, but the card takes a nosedive to some extent. And so like you can't give this like an A or an A plus because the rest of the support is weak. But BC's right. Like the main event is what makes cards. Like unless the whole card is just like B pluses all up and down, and then the totality of that overwhelms it. But like the last fight of the night, like that is the thing that you leave the night with. And the last fight on Saturday, if the rest of that card is horrible, if all of these fights end up just sucking shit, which they won't, but like if it happens that they are all the most boring fights you've ever seen and you are questioning your fandom, it's not going to matter when DDP and Khamzat step in there. There's something cool, something awesome, something weird as shit is going to go down. We're going to talk about it for weeks and months on end, and people will leave this event feel like buzzing because of the main event. And so it has to be an A so long as this main event actually goes forward on Saturday.
Yeah, and I got to give it to the UFC on this one because sometimes they put together cards. I'm like, dude, I got to watch all these fights to get to the main event. Here, it's like a fun adventure on the way to the main card. And then in the main card, a fun adventure there. Heaps of fights with some really big stakes on the line. Or we're going to see like Pico's in there. Like, like Murphy's trying to redeem the whole thing with the fans. MVP's trying to see what kind of future he has. Jared Kennedy is. There's all sorts of narratives here. And then you finish off with that massive payoff in the end. BC.
Plus 2 Ultimate Fighter finales. Come on. Starting the evening with championship fights. Duh.
I didn't even know that. This is the first time hearing.
The UFC 319, UFC Chicago is also the Tough 33 finale card.
What?
Did you not know this?
I think you made that up, Dennis. I don't
see it on my Wikipedia here.
You've screenshotted an old thing. Also, they added a fight like 10 minutes ago from the dude who was dope on Contender Series last night, got added to this card.
Hell yeah, man. Well, good on him. I do find it funny that they put that many names onto one card, but then like previous weeks, were like, who's this guy? Why didn't they have this guy? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But long story short, BC, if for some reason Khamzat doesn't make this fight, he's looking great. He looks like he's going to make the weight. He's looking dialed in during fight week. If for some reason he doesn't make this fight, we got Kyle Bahalio weighing in as a backup here. What is your take if he has to step in last second?
I don't want to voice this into reality as a possibility. You know what I mean? I mean, like Deontay Wilder taught me that I speak it, I receive it, I believe it in some order like that. Also, Jed's mustache really looking like a hybrid between Hitler and Dale Sr. at the moment. No one talking about that, by the way. All right. Kind of like 86 Larry Bird, but a little weirder. Look, it's a step down. Jed's right that this is top heavy, meaning the main event is so good that it would be a disaster in my eyes. I would almost rather them inject RDR or Fluffy in there with no weigh-in just to increase it. I'd rather see Kyle and Nasruddin Imavov have to go through each other to get that opportunity. So no, I will not answer your question, sir, because we're getting DDP versus Khamzat.
All right. Well, so let's talk about that fight. I spoke to DDP. When we spoke about the first round, he told me, I am not going there to defend takedowns. I am going there to kill. I'm going there to attack. I'm going at Khamzat from the first round. The coach has confirmed this. Morn Visser, he's going to pop on tomorrow. We're going to go through the strategy in a bit more depth. Jed, I want to go to you. What's that? Sorry?
You should open mouth kiss him too. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Awesome. Jed, what is this? BC on fire with a CBS deal in his back pocket and Paramount Plus around the corner. Jed, what is this first round? How the hell does this first round look in your opinion, in your mind, as you envision both of these guys staring at each other from across the octagon?
You ever seen like nature documentaries where like 2 grizzly bears are just fighting over some piece of, or like 2 like bull walruses are just mashing into each other with the teeth just everywhere? That's what it's about to be. It's going to be exactly that. Just 2 forces of nature colliding in the center, and to see who dominates, because I could absolutely believe Khamzat Chimaev will get ahead early, but if he doesn't finish this fight, early, I think he is going to just get DDP'd all over. And I'm not entirely sure that he even will get ahead early because people just really underestimate Dricus Du Plessis, who is like maybe the best fighter in the world right now, but no one's going to talk about it because it's real weird to look at him and be like, that guy might be the best active fighter alive because he's so goofy, but damn, he is good. And damn, this fight is awesome. I cannot wait for Saturday night.
BC, is the narrative correct? You know, we've spoken about this for such a long time now. The first round, Khamzat's got to activate in that first round, finish DDP maybe in the first two. And if he doesn't, then DDP takes this fight. Is the narrative correct? What are we missing here?
No, that actually is the narrative because I love this. Part of why I love this fight so much, not just that it's a 50-50, both are badasses, it's a style contrast, blah, 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 is the idea that Khamzat still has so many questions. And when we have questions that are still unanswered on the title level, it's extra damn intriguing. Look, if Khamzat doesn't beat you in 47 seconds and he can do that against anybody on the right night, then he looks a little bit human. Went to war with Gilbert Burns, maybe even lost that fight. Went in there against Kamaru Usman on late notice and kind of gassed out in the third round. Pretty much everyone else, of course, he goes through like a knife through hot butter, but how about the fact that he's fought just once a year in 3 of the past 4, from injuries to illness to visa issues to weird weight misses to Kadyrov telling him, no, you're not retired. This has been so wacky that we cannot have confidence that we know exactly who this guy really is. It's not just if he doesn't get the finish in the first 5 minutes, is the fight over? We have to see what that cardio looks like in round 4 or 5. He's never, ever been there. So I do think that natural equation is the best way to look at it, of course, but I don't necessarily think the fight's going to be won either by him submitting DDP early or DDP gassing him out late. I think this is going to be a wild back and forth fight in which they both implement what they do best. But I think it's almost crazy that DDP's the betting underdog here, because even though Chimaev has proven he can take elite fighters and wrap them up and get them out of there, DDP is so damn battle tested, has so much more experience at the highest level of figuring out how to win close fights, is built like a brick shithouse. He might be the best, shittiest fighter in the world or whatever Adesanya said about him, but Jed was day one on this. I missed it. I'm not going to miss it again. This guy is pound for pound great. And obviously what makes this fight great is both are in my top 10 pound for pound with Chimaev at 10, but we cannot remotely act like we really know who Chimaev is. And I don't look at that as an issue. I look at that as the most exciting part of this fight.
That's such a good point, BC. Like, Jed, with Khamzat, the wins are impressive. But Robert Whittaker, he said the teeth were already injured. Kamaru Usman, he was able to kind of find himself a little bit in that fight on short notice. Gilbert Burns was able to drag things out a little bit. We have had moments with Khamzat, right, where it's like we haven't been truly able to find out what kind of fighter he really is. And I feel like this is it right here. We're going to find it out this weekend. But do you think that people are severely underestimating DDP and what can happen in this first round? Like, everybody keeps talking about Khamzat dominating DDP. What about if Khamzat goes out there and DDP dominates him at the start of the fight? No one really discusses what happens there.
That's the thing, is that can happen. I wouldn't predict it to happen. I do think Khamzat's going to win the first round. But like, here's the thing. We've seen Khamzat like meet with any resistance twice, and both times the fights were incredibly competitive. Like, he has an unbelievable hammer, right? Like, he is one of the best hammers you've ever seen, just at mowing people down. But the
Strickland backwards, we don't see that very often. Beat him the second time.
Oh no, I'm talking about Khamzat, not DDP.
Okay.
DDP is both a good hammer and has proven to be like a viable nail as well. Khamzat, every person he has fought has folded up immediately or just given him a goddamn war. Like, Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman are the two dudes who didn't just completely die to him. And both of those were extremely competitive fights. Majority decision over Usman, and a lot of people thought Burns won the fight. I don't think so. I thought Khamzat won that fight. But like, when he has met resistance, his game shifts dramatically. he's gonna meet resistance in Dricus Du Plessis. Like, it is just, and so like this will be the, hey, we get to find out how good is Khamzat Chimaev. Like, does he have another gear to go to? He has been able to sort of just stay in front of two dudes he was clearly physically vastly superior to. And, in the sense of Usman, had been training for a fight. Usman got off the couch in 8 days or whatever it was. That's if he loses the first round, then I would bet a whole lot of money that DDP is going to win the fight. But if that's not what happens and Khamzat loses the round and then comes back, then we got to learn something. We got to figure out sort of what he's made of outside of being this sort of supernatural force of nature. And like, that is, to BC's point, like, that's why I'm excited about this fight. I know who Dricus Du Plessis is as a fighter at this point. I've known him for a long time. Everybody else finally caught up. But like, it is battle tested and proven. We still can have a ton of questions about Khamzat Chimaev, and one way or another, we're getting answers on Saturday. And for a guy who has been so in the conversation basically since 2020, to like still not know a lot about him is an anomaly. And I'm very excited to figure out some things.
How about Gilbert Burns? Close fights with JDM, close fight with Khamzat. The guy doesn't get the credit that he deserves. BC, if Khamzat loses here, it's a no-brainer. You can do Strickland, you could do Costa. There's so many options for him. But if he wins here, did you guys see his comments? He's looking at 170. He's looking at 205. I was talking with Oscar Willis 2 days ago on this channel. We were like, dude, if that is the truth, let's say he wins, like defends his title once and does decide to try to go up or down, we're looking at fights with people like Islam Makhachev if he becomes champion. We're looking at fights with people like Alex Pereira if he somehow beats Ankalaev. We're looking at some, like, maybe Ilya Topuria fights Islam and then he becomes, like, is there going to be a Topuria Khamzat fight? Like, BC, have you thought about the juicy matchups that are available for Khamzat?
Murder.
Which one?
I have.
Ilya versus Khamzat would be a sanctioned murder.
By Khamzat.
Obviously.
I don't know.
Like literally twice the size of Ilya Topuria.
Look, I'm going to jump in here since the question was asked to me, but I'll answer it by saying that normally I'm the guy who's quicker to pull the trigger on champion versus champion or do this stuff. But he just got, and I love the idea of somebody for the first time getting a chance to become the first 3-division champion in UFC. I think that's the holy grail. I'm shocked no one's got the chance. It was basically because Conor's career fell apart and Pereira didn't get over that most recent hill, or he probably would get the chance right now. But I think you got to, considering the depth at middleweight at the moment and the fact that there's some really good storylines, personalities, you have old legends still lingering. I think you got to, if DDP wins, make him go back through those names because, Khamzat wins because Khamzat versus Strickland sells. Khamzat versus, Adesanya sells. Khamzat versus, like insert name, RDR, Fluffy Hernandez. You have to give him that chance to continue to build up his name as that badass villain at the end of the video game, only he wins. He gets it done at the end rather than messing up the chance for the biggest super fight they can make, in my opinion, in terms of not just bringing back McGregor against anyone. And that's Ilya versus Islam. Unless this Paramount CBS deal changes the way they look at wanting to make big fights. And that's why I thought Netflix originally being rumored into this could be that wild card, because we knew if Netflix was in, they were only going to want the big events. So you start to say maybe that will change UFC, because one thing you do have to say, Dana doesn't lie when he says, depending on which TV holder we're with, we bend to what they want. That's why this era of UFC, especially through COVID and after, is all about just filling out almost every other weekend. But we don't necessarily know what the pressure will be on them from Paramount, who is paying a lot of money here to make really big fights. And I don't think you jeopardize what could happen with Ilya versus Islam by doing that, as exciting as it would be. If Khamzat answers the questions that we don't have the answers to against DDP, there's a couple more questions and a lot of hungry guys who are deserving right after it. And the fact that I haven't even mentioned Nasruddin Imavov continues to be a slight to him, because he's probably earned it even more than those other guys. Yet if he gets by Kaio or vice versa, you have just another name to add into that deep pool of 185ers who are due and they're ready and they've earned it.
It's an interesting point. Let's just quickly, we'll talk about what's next for the middleweight division in a sec. But Jed, let's say DDP goes out there and beats Khamzat, right? I feel like no one really talks about legacy, what he has achieved. having a look at his record here, he's beaten some of the biggest names back to back in the middleweight division. We've seen, the Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland, Izzy Strickland again. He went through Darren Till. He if he goes through Khamzat. What do you think this means for DDP's legacy when it pertains to some of the best at the middleweight division? Maybe he's not touching that Anderson Silva legacy, but does he start nipping at the heels of the Izzy Adesanya title sort of run that he had based on the names and the domination and the performances and the activity and just the way he's been able to carry himself as a champion?
He probably opens the conversation with Izzy. But if he gets past Khamzat, particularly if he finishes him, y'all know my stance on this. Like I treat title defenses as the end all be all in most respects, because that has always been the currency of greatness in every sport of all time. But with 3 and including a win over Izzy, even though it's, probably past his prime Izzy, you can still at least like start to talk about it, like where he stacks up historically as far as a middleweight goes, all-time great middleweights. He'd be a mile off Anderson, obviously, but like I will rank him number 1 pound for pound if he beats Khamzat Chimaev. I said this before. I'm sticking to it. He's I will rank him number 1 pound for pound. And if Islam then comes up and beats JDM, then he'll take it over. But like,
nah, dude, nah.
This is just a killer fucking run, man. And I know that everyone is jerking themselves off about Ilia Topuria, and his run is insane and great. I'm not here to say it's not, but like Ilia Topuria's run is 3 fights. This run is like 5 at this point, and I feel like no one's ever going to give him credit because middleweight is kind of a weird division, and because he looks really weird. Like it has been a hard fight to get people to come around to him to the extent that they have. But if he wins, and the way I think he's going to win, and the way I think he's going to win is going to be incredibly impressive, and just sort of reinforce all my thoughts about him, which is maybe he's not the most technically gifted fighter you've ever seen, but he's probably the best game planner and one of the smartest fighters currently competing. And it kind of doesn't matter. Like if you throw a punch and it's ugly, but it fucking lands, buddy, that's what counts, because this is a fist fight and he's a damn good fist fighter. And so I'm going to give him his flowers when he gets the win Saturday. And then we can talk about the fight that really must happen, which is, of course, Dricus Du Plessis versus Reiner de Ritter.
BC, but does Jed have a point? Like, does DDP not get enough credit? Maybe you don't agree the number 1 pound for pound.
All right, the reason why I'm not reaching through the screen to grab Jed is that he was day 1 on DDP. He's 100% right that even people that rank him, 4 or 5 pound for pound, which is where he deserves to be, still sometimes miss how good he is. And obviously the reason why is because he's not really fully polished in every category, yet he's very good in every category and has adapted his style and has that clutch gene that is hard to really put a finger on. He is not just game. He knows, like I said earlier, he knows how to win close fights, and that matters. And Jed could have helped his argument by saying, he's going in there against somebody who I just told you in Chimaev, I have ranked 10th pound for pound at CBS Sports for whatever that it's worth. But Topuria is like ending guys, finishing them, back-to-back wins over pound for pound legends before then facing another legend. In
they're old legends.
And on top of that, God, Makhachev is been on a heater lately and could be a 2-division champion next anyway. That doesn't. I
said if Makhachev beats JDM, he's taking the top spot, so that doesn't count as an argument against.
Doesn't mean to take away what DDP's doing, and if he adds unbeaten Chimaev to this run of current and former champions, considering he's still so early in his UFC career and he's undefeated, and you add on top of it that he is just a handful physically, which is why I don't worry about him getting subbed out by Chimaev as quickly as some of these other greats have. Yes, you can make the argument that he's number 3 pound for pound. You'd probably ruin Merab's day by making that argument, but I don't think you can put him 1 or 2, even with a win here. Just the same, it's not easy to crack the top 3 or 4 pound for pound right now when we have this many greats in there. That doesn't take anything away from this guy. I just think Jed's been day 1 with him, and this guy's body is a wonderland. So maybe Jed would use his hands, and I'm down with that. That's cool. You know what I mean? But I don't know where I got lost in turn 4 there. Sorry. All right.
Well, I think the thing here is one of these guys, the idea of one of these guys being finished and stopped, especially Khamzat come this weekend, is just mind blowing, right? So just the picture of a DDP standing over Khamzat and finishing him. I wonder how powerful that will be come Monday when it comes to the rankings, right? Like even like with Fluffy, no one really spoke about the impact that kind of performance could have on his run. Like I'm sure Jed, you and Mike sort of broke that down on BTL or something, but like that happened, and everyone's like, "This guy's next for the title." Now they're flying him up for the fights to Chicago this weekend. And by the way, over in Chicago, apparently Paulo Costa's going to be there. I know RDR is healing up; he's getting ready to see what's next for him. I know that, like you said, Kaio and Imavov, BC, they're getting ready to mix it up. UFC Paris, and Kaio is even the backup for this fight, which is insane. So soon before this main event with Imavov, Jet. I want to go to you first, man. Give me your pick. Who's next for the title? Say DDP wins it this weekend.
It's the winner of Bahalyo Imavov. I think I wouldn't bet like my life or a lot of money on it, but it just kind of feels like the winner of that is so deserving. And DDP has never been a champ. Like he's not doing the Ilya Topuria thing where he just spews nonsense is like, I'm not going to fight that dude. Brr. Like he's like, I don't give a shit. I'll fight whoever.
He gave props to Fluffy after he won. He was like,
yeah, exactly. I was like, yeah, it's like, I'll fight. He gave props to RDR after RDR won. Like he'll fight anybody. And like that combination of the winner of the Halio Imavov fight being so deserving and DDP just kind of being down to clown, and they're not being like another obvious choice, like stand out. I think that they'll just go with like the meritocratic pick unless something wonky happens, right? Like, and this, I've mentioned this on BTL the other week. Like if Bahalyo wins like a bad split decision or something like weird happens, then maybe RDR gets to step in there free and clear or whatever. But I think the most likely outcome is RDR and Fluffy end up scrapping sometime into this year, early next year. And the winner of that then faces the winner of DDP versus the winner of Bahalyo Imavov.
Dude, I just don't want to see two, like Fluffy and RDR. They're on these great runs. Like, do we want to see both of them just? I want to see, like, I don't want to get rid of fun contenders straight away. But BC, Imavov has had a difficult relationship with the UFC. It seems like he's very demanding. He wants things on his own terms. Do you see a scenario here where if he beats Kaio and the fight is maybe not as exciting as what it could be, one of these other guys get the nod and step in? Like, let's not forget, fellas, RDR just fights like once a month now. He's like, you guys want me here? I'm here. And that's what the UFC loves.
You're making all my points for me, and you're brilliant in saying it. I had the same reaction. It's not that Imavov doesn't deserve it. I mean, every single time I go, wait, let me look once more who he's beaten succession. You're like, oh, shit, this guy has a great claim, but he's got a great claim like Evloev does. You know what I mean? But here's another guy that maybe isn't first on the UFC's mind of rewarding. RDR has come in here, been super exciting, did it the hard way, did it the way UFC prefers, where you just take tough-ass challenges in short notice, quick turnarounds. So I think everything's going to go against Imavov unless he gets a spinning back kick KO, where he's going to get passed over. And let's not forget one more thing, guys. They're kicking off the new TV deal in January, which would probably be right around the time that the winner of this is going to be ready to turn around. They might want to use the winner of this in the first card or one of the first 5. You have to believe they're going to come out really strong. And I know my next point is a bit of a reach, but imagine the champion DDP defending, who's from South Africa. He's fought in Australia a lot. You got RDR, who's known in Southeast Asia. You can do something like that in that area of the world if you had to. I think you're going to give RDR the opportunity above Imavov. He's going to have to be the guy who goes through Fluffy in this case. It has to do that and go through one more step. Every division has a guy like this. That's who Imavov is in this division, for better or for worse.
BC is just giving me a gift. He just wants me to be happy, because all I want in my whole life is for DDP to fight RDR. Like, I will be very sad Saturday if Khamzat beats DDP for like 5 minutes, and then I will immediately not be sad, because then I'll be like, guess that means we're getting DDP versus RDR, baby. It is, if I could make any fight at all in this sport right now, it is unquestionably the fight I would book. I hope that he is right and that they pass over Kyle Bahalio or Nasruddin Imavov, because goddamn, I hope that's the White House fight, and I will go and sit on the South Lawn and watch those two Dutchmen fight for the middleweight belt in the goofiest, best fight of all time. God, I want that fight.
Dude, I want that fight too. And by the way, RDR trained with both guys, already knows what he's going to do with both guys. Like, this guy is ready to go. BC, a lot of love for Fluffy after his win. Let's say Khamzat does win. Who are you favoring in a Fluffy Khamzat fight?
I mean, some of that is hard to say because we don't have the full answers to Khamzat, but if you're telling me he wins, right? I mean, then we're going to have a lot more in that one. I'm going to go Khamzat because he's still undefeated. He does have a tendency, like we talked about, to win violently, efficiently, and sometimes dramatically, where even though Fluffy has more finishes, I think he's at something like 12 and 15, wins than I tend to give him credit for. And even though he's riding a hell of a hot hand, and I wouldn't count him out after he beat Delije almost to the point where I felt Delije could have retired from embarrassment. That's how insane that performance was. That I certainly loved the fight. Couldn't wait to see it. But let's not forget, Chimaev's also the favorite on Saturday, when you could argue, and we both have, Jed and I, showing so much respect to DDP, that it's crazy to me that Du Plessis is not the favorite, given the recent track record and the things we don't know about Khamzat. But if we find out, and Khamzat is that dude, Boar's head, whatever we call him these days, roll out the cold cuts. Okay, that guy's taking it.
If Khamzat wins here, though, Jed, Paulo Costa's trying to line up for this fight with him. What do you do with Khamzat next if he wins? Is it still the Imavov fight, or do you think there's a chance that one of these other guys can slot in as well?
Non-zero chances, Paulo Costa. Just because that would be there's heat there, and that's the thing. Like, there's no heat with DDP versus anybody else.
Strickland, there's heat.
You could maybe do Strickland, but also Strickland, he's sussied for a while. Not had a lot of great performances lately. So you could maybe do it. I think things get real weird if Khamzat wins, is the sort of the end point here, just because they're open for business. The reason DDP in my mind is going to get the Bahalio Imavov winner is because he doesn't have some standing beef with somebody else to promote, because otherwise they would absolutely pass him over. Paulo Costa does. And so they're not trying to give Kyle Bahalio or Nasruddin Imavov a title fight unless one of them does something awesome. If Bahalio just blows up Imavov, then it probably would just be Bahalio versus Khamzat. But I think if Khamzat wins, it could be anything.
All of them. Jed, Bahalio's got the worst chance of all of them of cutting the line.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? He's the backup fighter. As we all know, when Dana makes you the backup fighter, you are the beloved son of the promotion, unless your name is Mateusz Gamrot. And then you were the backup fighter, and they didn't let you fight when the guy pulled out, and they completely ignored that ever happened.
But don't forget, he's also fighting a few weeks later, BC. Not only that, but he's cutting weight before a main event.
Don't you guys think if Strickland could get a win before, in the next couple months, that you would do Khamzat Strickland because of the trash talk elements and the fact that would be such a sexy fueled build? Sexy is the wrong word in this case, God, but because Strickland's going to cringe your shit off, but it would be American versus foreigner. It would be dude, it would be insane. They'd probably go there, right?
They would, but he's suspended, and so he has to get unsuspended and fight before they do a title fight.
The Abus Magomedov rematch. That's how he got the title shot last time,
It's also interesting for Izzy Adesanya because he wants to come back, right? And I know we're not that big on him. We think he's towards the tail end of his career, but also if Israel goes out there and gets a good fight, picks up a win, and Khamzat is the new champion, Izzy could be someone that slots in pretty quickly into a title shot as well, right? There's a lot of opportunity. It's crazy to say Paulo Costa, but then Khamzat would love to have a Paulo Costa fight, right? The UFC would love to just make that fight. So there's so much opportunity there when it comes to that, when it comes to the future if Khamzat wins. I got to find out from you fellas, though. Dricus at 205. Let's say Alex Pereira beats Ankalaev. BC, Pereira's obsessed with DDP because he knows there's money there to be made. We keep talking about him going to heavyweight, but is there a well there? He beats Uncle Ivan and goes, DDP, you just beat Khamzat. Come up here and let's get this on before he does this heavyweight run.
I do, and I think that would be sexy as shit. And I think if DDP beats Khamzat, for everything we talked about, his pound for pound ranking, to the names, the quality of the names, the former champions and current ones that he beat, you could reward him and give him that chance. Because if we really made a ranking of not John Jones and Conor McGregor, who may be coming through that door as grifters one more time, but if we actually ranked who are the most valuable brands for the UFC and being able to sell out an arena by only knowing that they're fighting alone, obviously DDP on a global scale is getting up there quickly. You would give that guy a chance, if anyone, because he has deserved it, to become a 2-division champion in the same way that you're currently giving Ilya and Islam, because they both have done the same.
Jed?
I would quibble that Ilya deserved it, but that's a separate argument. He got it. That's all that mattered. I hope not. I mean, it would be a ripper, right? Like, I'm not going to be mad if Alex wins and they book DDP versus Alex. I would really like to see DDP beat Khamzat and then, beat Imavov or Bahayo and beat Fluffy and beat RDR. And like, instead of just clearing out the previous generation before him, actually consolidate his current generation, and, an old school championship run would be awesome. And he kind of seems open to that, but I think if they obviously show up and are like Alex Pereira, he is going to say yes if that's an option. But mostly, as fun as that fight would be, guys, you know what happens if he goes up to 205? Then we can get DDP versus Yuri. And that's number 2 on the fights I want to see behind DDP versus RDR. Let those two violent giant bozos just go be real weird. And can you imagine the trash talk? Just imagine the cuttingly brutal things Dricus will say about fucking Icelandic ninja Yuri Prochazka. It would be an incredible build and a sick ass fight. I want Alex to go to heavyweight. I want Yuri to beat Magomedov Ankalaev and get the belt, and I want DDP versus Yuri for the light heavyweight belt. This is like, if I was God and got to do what I wanted, those are the outcomes I would make happen.
God, take us to Yuri University, him versus DDP. Can you imagine that, BC, if that happened? That would be unbelievable.
That would be the best goddamn fight.
While we're on the way to Yuri University, just a quick shout out to all the people signing up to new memberships in here. Please jump on, become a member. Lazy Bed just renewed. We had people gifting memberships in the chat.
You hang around with those Just Bleed Radio dirt holes? I love those guys.
Yeah, those guys are the best. So shout out to those guys as well. Hey, let's go. Supporting the boys, and we support you. Now, let's talk about the rest of the card just quickly. The main event is obviously a juicy one, but BC, this co-main event between Lorne Murphy and Aaron Pico. It was supposed to be Mosa. Mosa was unable to make this fight. What happens here? Let's say Pico goes out and stops Lorne Murphy in a decisive fashion. Where does it put him in terms of what's next for the champ, Alex Okonovsky? Do you still think Mosa will get it, or do you believe with his weird relationship with the UFC, the fact that he hasn't been able to make this fight on a couple of occasions now, and now this being sort of put in that highlight spot in the co-main event position, that Pico might be in with a shot with a big win here?
Dude, you're soft playing the shit out of this. Let's say facts right now. The UFC loves Pico. He was a gift that Don with 4 ends Davis didn't know what to do with him, right? No disrespect to Don, or at least not a ton of it. All right, all the disrespect to Don. My point is, then you find out Hunter Campbell loves this guy. They should. Pico's an absolute stud. I'm not saying we have all the answers about him either, or that he's fully proven on this level, but that was a 28-year-old gift that fell in their lap where PFL's just like, yeah, we don't really know what to do with him, so you can have him. Then you look at the fact that featherweight needs a bad recharging with the loss of star power of guys like Topuria and Holloway going up. Obviously, Volkanovski regaining the title helped them because there's certainly name power right there. But you add the gift that has been given to the promotion this week, which is Volkanovski and Pico going back and forth with like legit trash talk against each other. We all know Pico should have already been in a big fight that would have better defined who he was. If Bellator didn't fall apart when it did, he probably would have fought Patricio Pitbull to really give us that test of who he is. Obviously, PFL tried to make that fight, but couldn't. but I don't even think you need a finish. I think you could even get a controversial win, and it's promotional malpractice not to make this fight right now. Featherweight is the division that needs new blood. This is the perfect new blood because he's already kind of ready to go right away. It's his central casting. So unfortunately, Evloev is going to get Imavov, and you can argue that Lerone Murphy's getting Imavov just by getting subbed in here for Evloev because they're trying to get rid of him too with Pico beating him. This is all about Pico. It's not a guarantee that he wins, obviously, even though he's a favorite. Murphy can fight. He's technical. He's tough. He's got cardio. He also lacks that extra gear that he needs. Pico's got too many extra gears. It's got him in trouble in the past, but obviously who he's been in his last 9 fights, 8-1 overall. The only loss by injury to Jeremy Kennedy. And by the way, he tried to Dillashaw his way through that until they stopped it. This guy has every part of the full package. And if you've ever seen videos of him riding a horse on his ranch in New Mexico, his horse is Safredian. And I know some of your listeners know what that means.
Jed, can Murphy do anything here to put himself in a position, like, let's say he beats Pico. Is there a way he could beat Pico in a way that he could bounce back here? Like, can he win back some of the fanfare, some of the relationship with the UFC? Or do you reckon, regardless, this guy will still have a couple of fights with a win over Pico?
He's got to have a couple fights. Because, like, that's the thing is most of the fans who tune in Saturday do not know who Aaron Pico is. They will have never heard of him. He looks great getting off the bus, right? Like, man's carved out of wood. I'm sure the UFC will give him the full press of like, this guy wasn't a champion in another, because they can't even say like he was a champion in another organization. They'll be like, this guy is one of the greatest prospects to ever enter the sport, blah, 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 barely missed out on the Olympic team, blah, blah, blah. And all that's true and good, but like the casual fan has no idea where Aaron Pico is. So even if Lerone Murphy goes out there and hits like a ninja kick KO or whatever, like that will be good. But the problem is your reputations get set and then they're very hard to change. And Lerone Murphy's reputation is well earned as a dude who is not a particularly compelling fighter, right? Like he's got 8 decisions in a row or something like that. And not all those fights are bad. Some of them, are good to some extent. But like when that's what you do, and then you're not even like owning that brand, and you'll chide fans like, you guys should just really appreciate I'm a great mixed martial artist. I'd appreciate if you just fucking finish somebody if you're so goddamn good, like that'd be cool. If you're that fucking good, why don't you go get somebody out of there?
It's like, I'd appreciate if you shut the fuck up. All right.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah.
It's like you can't talk your way out of a boring label. Like you gotta do it in the cage. And so if he does it this week, great. Like that'll be a very good start for him. I would be a little surprised, but that would be awesome. But there's no outcome basically on Saturday where he gets a title fight. If Pico blows him up, Pico's getting the title fight. Like this is a one-sided fight in that regard. And Murphy needs to come out and he needs to try and be interesting for the first time in his career functionally.
So if it is, okay, let's say that Murphy does win. Is it still Mosar BC?
I don't know.
I think Alex's vision was he has an issue with his eye or something still from the Lopez fight, but he should be ready for
Dude, I feel like
this February Sydney card or something.
I feel like even if Murphy wins, you got to go Murphy Evloev just to eliminate one of them. I mean, I really do. And I don't think that's rude and it's ridiculous, but like we got an issue right here. Is anybody else healthy? Can Brian Ortega get back and get a big win? I don't know. Look, you really can't. In all reality, it's going to be hard to block and stop Evloev from getting an opportunity. Murphy could pass him with a big win here, but Jed's right. Murphy is even less sexy than Evloev in terms of how UFC would look at him as a brand. I don't think UFC needs Pico to win, but it would benefit them greatly if we can put away that stretch early in his career when bad decisions were being made by his dad as manager behind the scenes, and he was throwing caution to the wind constantly and leaving his chin out. He has fixed those days. So I could see him either stopping Murphy or just wrestling the shit out of him. He's going to win here, guys. This is his moment. This is his chance. I have no idea what he looks like against Volkanovski, but he's not only going to win this fight, he's going to win the fans because he is ripped to shit right now. He carries himself as an assassin, always dresses in tight pinstripe suits, and now he's talking shit to Volk. Let's go. That's money. That's cash register shit. He's already got Hunter behind him. You know, Lorenzo loves this guy too, right? Everybody does. He's free. And then I find out he's from this legendary California Pico family. This guy's awesome. Have I talked about yet his horse's dong? Sorry. All right. Sorry. I got a little,
You have.
little worked up there. Yeah.
Also, shout out to Lorenzo loves him. Lorenzo is not currently employed.
Yeah,
with the
but why do you think
UFC.
Vittori got to push twice? Because Lorenzo loves that Italian man. All right.
By the way, somebody in the comment section's showing some love. Spent $1,500 on 2 300 level tickets for this Saturday's fight. I reckon just being in the building for this one will be a special one, and also some love here from that guy 540.
Good for you, bud.
Final fight before I let you fellas go. This MVP Jared Cannonier fight, right? I want to get a thought from you first, Jed. Was this MVP strategy of going to middleweight and just sort of fighting Jared Cannonier and potentially fighting a couple of other guys in the division smart? He mentioned there's too many politics at welterweight. You could also argue middleweight is stacked. He ain't getting to a title shot anytime soon. It's not really his weight class. And Jared Cannonier isn't like the easiest fight anyway. Is MVP doing the right thing here?
Those goddamn politics at welterweight where I lost. It's really political that I just fucking lost. That's the politics. The reason he's not fighting for a belt is if he had beaten Ian Machado Gary, he probably would be. And instead he fucking lost. And so the politics are you weren't good enough. It's an incredible fucking spin zone.
But the politics in real life, when you're not good enough, don't really matter. So
not at
you
all.
gotta understand his point.
Honestly, if you have the right politics, you can be wildly incompetent and still get put into great spots. So that's an incredible spin zone for him.
But he's not a natural middleweight. He's fighting Jared Cannonier, who the UFC looks like they're trying to put out to pasture, but just won't go. What do you think of MVP sort of having a crack at this division?
I think it's fine.
Oh,
Why
I thought
not?
you were talking to me. Sorry, I lost track
Yeah.
of where we were. Yeah.
No, it's just like I don't have much to say. Like, why not? If you're MVP and you got to beat Shara in a, feel like a guy that they put some juice behind. And now you get like the number 8, or I don't know what Jared Cannonier is ranked. I know he's ranked in the top 10. If you go out here and you win this, like suddenly you are the big name, right? Like you are one of the bigger names in the weight class that is a little open right now. As we spent a lot of time talking about who's next. If MVP dazzles against Jared Cannonier and then like throws a pokeball at him or whatever, and maybe suddenly he's in the mix. So I think
No, he's not. Come
He's
on.
not. Jed, stop doing this to us.
What are you
please.
talking about?
He's not in the mix. The guys, this is a weird fight that almost doesn't need to happen, but I freaking love it. That's why. And also, I think MVP said recently he's considering going back to welterweight. He took this because it was maybe the only fight offered to him. And let's not forget one thing. Cannonier at 41 is not prime Cannonier anymore, but he's more dangerous than ever before because he realizes that he's slowing down a bit and he can't try to be too technical. He went through hell against Hobo Cop and sent him deep down below the floor. Now he's talking about, I'm broke. I need to buy my mama a house. Never mess with a guy who's trying to do well for mama. Mike Tyson found that out against Buster Douglas. I love this fight, and I think Cannonier sends MVP to hell. But even with a win, MVP is in that Kung Lee portion of his career. We all know that at 38.
God.
Only the difference is he's not suing the UFC.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens come fight night. So many great fights there, so many things to go through. We didn't even mention King Green, Chase Hooper's on there. Of course, some legends, Edson Barbosa, this tough final that Jed just broke news to most of us about. So it's all happening.
Two tough finals. Also, at some point, are you going to mention the names Jeff Neal and Carlos Prates? Because that's probably like the best fight on the card other than the main event. The fight's fucking sick.
I should probably mention that fight. Do we think Carlos
That
Prates...
fight's sick.
Do you think Carlos Prates could turn things around here against Jeff Neal and come into the stardom that we all want him to have in the welterweight division? Or do you think that Jeff Neal might just be a bit too tricky for him?
If you're talking to me, I think this is a big bounce back for Prates because not only did he turn around the stank of the first 3.5 rounds against Ian Gary, where he looked like he didn't belong, by not only rallying to save face, nearly pulling the whole thing off. I love the things he's been talking about since. A, he's not slowing down on the SIGs because he thinks it helps him cut weight. But B, he recognizes that the failure against Gary was an inability to actually carry out and execute the game plan. He got swallowed up in the technical defensive brilliance that is Gary, even though Gary almost left that back door unlocked, if you know what I'm saying. I think this is Pratesh's monster bounce back session. Remember, 4-0 with 4 KOs after a big knockout on the Dana White Contender Series to get our attention. And again, he saved enough face late against Gary. He learned his lesson. Maybe he's switching from menthols to like, I don't know. I like the left-handed cigarettes, if you know where I'm getting at. But either way, look for Pratesh to bounce back big. All right.
And what the division's crazy, Jed, because with a win here, you got, Michael Morales, you got Leon Edwards, you got obviously Buckley in there. You got so many fights that could be fun for Prates if he can pull this through.
Yeah, this fight's awesome. Carlos Prates is obviously incredibly fun. And Jeff Neal is like everybody Jeff Neal has ever fought, even if they've beat him, he exacts the toll. Like Shavkat had to fucking work to beat Jeff Neal. Like he is not a pushover. And so I think Prates is going to win, but it's going to be fun. Like they are going to be scrapping because Jeff Neal's a rugged kind of dude. That's how he gets down. And then, yeah, like if Jeff Neal wins, that's incredible. And it's not even that like bad. Like it would be cooler if Prates wins because, the idea that he could fight for a belt one day would be fun. But if Jeff Neal wins and Carlos Prates is just like a super fun action guy, nothing wrong with that. And it'd be a cool story. And if Prates wins, it's like, okay, he got set back against maybe the best welterweight in the world. I don't think that's the case, but like you can, Ian Gary is certainly in that conversation.
At the end, right? Almost got him at the end.
Yeah, he almost got him at the end. And then you can start talking yourself into like look, if MVP wants to come back and you want to do Carlos Prates versus MVP, cool. If you want to do Carlos Prates versus Shavkat Rakhmonov, cool. Like there's no wrong way to eat the Carlos Prates Reese's. So I mostly just we talked about the MVP Jared Cannonier, which is one of the weirder fights, and blew right past Carlos Prates, who's like one of the more compelling individuals, and we needed to talk about him because that fight bangs.
Dude, they need people to headline cards. This guy is headline card worthy. Put him up against anyone in the welterweight division after this win. We're going to all be talking about it the week leading into it. Guys, that is it, though. As we wrap up, obviously, you've got the pregame coming up, a morning combat, a bit different this time, BC. Bringing a fighter into the fold. Give us a little preview. What can we expect?
Yeah, as much as we love having Jed in that chair and hope he will return tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time on the Morning Combat YouTube channel. It is pregame preview 319. Luke Thomas, myself, and UFC lightweight Matt Frivola, the new father. I won't bring up the BSD fight much, but I'll bring up a lot of other stuff with him. Love that guy. Can't wait to break it down. So much to talk about. Shots of tequila along the way. All right, be there, please. Thank you.
Are you going to make Luke drink here, or are we going to...
Dude, he still says he has to use the Mountain Dew chaser. I mean, Jed, you've been around.
It's not a chaser. He mixes, which is count. Like I'd be cooler with a chaser as opposed to his redneck margaritas. Like
last time he was like, "Can we get a set of stirrups in here too?" I'm like, "Get out of here, dude." All right,
This isn't even a bit. Like that tequila is so unbelievably smooth. It doesn't. And I'm a wuss. Like when it comes to shooting tequila, so you wouldn't need it. But he's an old man. He's set in his ways. I don't know. That's your partner. I can't. You got to figure that out.
He's MMA's problem, right? Thank you.
You and your partner, Jed, will be doing the live watch along, the pre-show, post-show, all that stuff this weekend.
We sure will. Heading down to Savannah this weekend. We got to do a watch party for my boy. I will be there to fire the money cannons when DDP wins, and we can all the haters and doubters will have to finally acknowledge, yeah, that's the best middleweight in the world. God damn it. That's right.
Dennis, when are you coming to the States? We'd love to get you in on a pregame preview. All right.
Hey, listen, man, my body's pretty broken. I don't think I can go through one of those economy flights you guys would try to. And I'm not worth the money. Hey, just quickly, by the way, Bong Island Luke, your man, BC, jumping on after the pay-per-view. It's going to do a reaction with me as well. How about that? Nice. So we're mixing it all together. It's all inbred, but it's all good here at MMA World. There he is, Brian Campbell. There he is, Jed Meshew with a beautiful mustache. I am Dennis Schrader. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for joining us here on Submission Radio Live.